Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Rain. Marcus, how are you?
Good, man. Good. Just, coming off of a pretty solid weekend of stuff, particularly wrestling, particularly one company in general, which you were going to give eyewitness accounts for. So looking forward to that.
That's right. I've witnessed an alien abduction. Oh wait, no, that was what I dreamt about. No, I went to Columbus, Ohio's hosting of Impact Wrestling, dubbed Against All Odds on Friday, and then the TV tapings on Saturday. Me and my significant other, my girl, she accompanied me, and I think I turned her into a devotee of pro wrestling. She was a big fan of PCO. She likes the monster characters. Cause like that's kind of her vibe. She's a big Halloween fanatic. So like that was one of those things that I was happy that she was able to embrace. She really liked Crazy Steve. So like that was a cool thing. And even though we're gonna likely be on the road when Slammiversary happens, she's like, we can watch this. Yes, I'm like, yeah, 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 we can watch this. So she's gonna be at least watching Slammiversary. So that's gonna be a big fun thing for me to get to experience with her. Because this is one of those situations where like you get to introduce somebody to something you enjoy profusely, and they generally enjoy it, and that happens so rarely that I'm just gonna enjoy the hell out of this.
Yeah, specifically because you spending significant amounts of time with her. So thank goodness it's not one of those things like, oh my God, you watch what? Like, could be the complete opposite.
And I think I've lucked out in a way because all of my significant others, to some degree or not, have either been able to get into it with me or appreciated the fact that I was so passionate about it. I've never had any of those. You're stupid. You're a child. You need to stop. What's wrong with you? Like I never had to deal with any of those. I know some people who have. So it's one of those things where I'm truly grateful for the woman that I'm seeing, and so there's that. As far as the show goes, some behind the scenes details. They they probably had if they had split the shows evenly, they probably would have had 1,000 people per night. But they had to like bring in more rows. They overbooked the first show against all odds. Like they over sold tickets. They had sold I think like 1,000, and they ended up needing like an extra 200 I think. So like it was far 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 more packed than I think people will realize watching it on TV. Sadly, the TV show will be about half of that, maybe 2/5 less. It still was a nice showing, but it wasn't the same amount of showing. The side row across from the entrance was probably 13. Oh, that wasn't 13. Probably 11 rows deep during against the odds, but on the TV tapings it was maybe 3 rows deep, and there was
Yeah.
maybe 20 seats per row, give or take, maybe 30. So significantly less. But I have to say that I think Columbus showed out for what they were offering, and truthfully, usually after a show like this, you get like debuts, new announcements, and all that, and it helps goose the tickets. But this was maybe the only show, even like just watching the spoilers of last year or two. This is probably the first post PPE or Premium Live PLE that we've seen where somebody new didn't debut, even if they weren't even a significant name. So I thought that was rather interesting. Now, I guess you could say Sawyer Fulton's return to the company was something to that effect, but I don't consider that. That being said, Sawyer's gotten really good.
Yeah,
I'm
this is, I was looking at it like, hey man, sucker showed up in that match, man.
he was huge in that match, and he was also very pivotal in the rest of the tapings as well. Um, I'm gonna say something I never thought I'd say before. I hope he sticks around. Jake Christ, though, I don't want to say Jake Christ, delivered or showed. Jake Christ just kept doing what Jake Christ has always done. He's always been one of the better workers that I don't think people talk about enough. That cutter spot off the top rope was so well timed, and I posted a GIF on it on Nerdcorp's Twitter account, NERDCRP, and I couldn't believe my phone actually can shoot in GIFs. That
I
was a
like
thing I discovered.
that was great. It was a weekend of discovery.
Right.
Um,
And it
you,
wasn't even like anything I intentionally did. It was just like, oh wait, this is now a GIF.
Chris is like, whether I'm thick or I'm a little thinner, I'm cutting everybody.
Yeah, right there, you said it. Jake Chris went from thick to cut, and now he's doing it to everybody.
And
He's
it's
gonna help the world get cut.
it's not like that's just like the whole show, like just some of the stuff we got in the tag match, like ABC, like even though like you said, you feel like Miguel's not nothing special. Like the roster is like second to none when it comes to like pure talent.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's insane. Like the women showed out in the dog collar match. Um, Naomi's athleticism was always crazy, but yeah, that spot was that cutter spot was insane, and that's not easy to do. That's not just something both jump at the same time. Like no, that's got to be good at what you do, man. And that match, they all year and then for the most part, like they really turned out for these hardcore matches. Like that match that Macklin had with PCO was crazy. Um, what happened to poor Demore? Well, Demore's been going through it, at Under Siege, and then got a little payback here. But what that was a barbed wire clothesline dude did. Man,
Mm-hmm.
sick man. Shout out to Abyss. Hope he's watching. I watched.
So as far as
Oh,
the show goes, there was a dark match between Yuya and I think it was Sheldon Jean. That was solid. I wouldn't say it was anything to write home about. I think it was Sheldon Jean. No, I can't remember now. And it was fine. Yuya looks decent. Then we had the pre-show match with Kylan King defeating Neva, who is Jake Christ's wife, who is returning to the company. She wrestled, I think, on Impact, or no, she wrestled on before the Impact or before the Bell, whatever they call it, BTI.
yeah.
So she wrestled there as well. I don't know if she's sticking around long term. I don't think she is, but I think Jake maybe and Sawyer maybe because the OVE merchandise was like sold out. You can get a few, like there was still a few snapback caps, but listen, I think snapback caps are to baseball caps what what Olive Garden is to Italian food. what
Oh,
what pineapple is to pizza toppings.
oh no, not this again.
So like I didn't get one, although like now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have just so I could have had one. I was gonna get an OVE T-shirt because like I like OVE. I always liked OVE.
Wait a minute.
I don't like Dave Chris, but like I like the others.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's that. Which is awkwardly. It works. It's awkward, but it works. But speaking of stuff that works, I assume that pineapple question has already been broached and handled.
It's I'm gonna treat it like religion when it comes to pineapple. Like there are people in my life that like it on there, and I'm just never gonna eat pizza around them when they're eating it. That's all that needs to be said. All right, so like I'm watching the Nuggets game right now, and they're doing a commercial with Grimace because it's his birthday, and like the McDonald's characters minus Ronald McDonald, which is I think insulting. And I'm just gonna say, if McDonald's goes back to using the mascots again, I'm not saying I'm gonna eat there more, but I'll be more appreciative when I do. That being said, so yeah, OVE's merchandise was sold out. Relatively, I think there's a bunch of smalls left. I'm like, do I look like I can fit in a small dude? I got shoulders wider than you are tall. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Who's this for? Um, so yeah, and yeah, Kylan King defeated Neva to start, or Nevea. I don't know how they pronounce it. And then Joe Hendry retained over Dirty Dango. People loved it. I don't know how it came across on the show market, but Joe Hendry was very over.
No, I
Uh,
can look. The suckers won me over, man. Got another hit song with the like what he said, a Total Divas reject or something. That
yeah,
was
the
hilarious.
Divas reject.
Ran down dude's whole career, brought up Jericho. Like I love it. Like it's good stuff. Like I said, Joe Hendry's the best thing that happened to that digital media championship.
He's
Uh,
made it significant, and the only thing I think they need to do differently now is actually put it on the actual shows. I know
yeah,
the whole point is to try to get people to watch the YouTube pre-show, and that's why he's there. But I think if you want to raise the prestige beyond Henry holding the title, because Henry I think is play his cards right. He could be a world champion in this company. Um, I think beyond him holding that belt, what you need to do is actually find a way to raise the profile of the belt going forward, so that you can have more people hold that belt and it be more significant than just Joe Hendry's workout title, so to speak. Personal,
yeah,
what's the word I'm thinking of? Personal secretary belt.
yeah. That's and we're gonna get all talk about title and aesthetics with title later. But even that championship looks better than some of the stuff that we're getting revealed in other companies. Um, so I like how they got the rubies with it, and obviously you got the digital design and all that. But yeah, Joe Hendry is just consistently good.
It has been, and Columbus loved Joe Hendry. They almost got Columbus to boo Joe Hendry. So when he came out the first night, he came out and he's like, "Say his name and he appears." And then he walked out and everyone started singing, "I believe in Joe Hendry," and they started clapping. And then he cut him off to do a promo, and I'm like, "Oh, these people wanted to be a part of that that intro." So the fact that they did that, I was like, that was a miss, because that Columbus was hot for Joe Hendry. Hendry goes over, retains the belt. Dirty Dango's getting a bit of a push following the pay per view, so that's interesting. I did not see the Frankie Kazarian Eddie Edwards match because I was standing in line. The venue isn't very big. It's at a well, I don't know, like a convention center, so that's mostly used for things like livestock and whatnot. But there's also some smaller facilities for like indoor venues, like for like hosting company picnics and get-togethers and whatnots. And they were in one of those buildings. But it was hot. There were probably 1,300 people there, 1,400 people for the first night, and it was hot. We didn't expect it to be that hot, so I was like, I need to go get water. We need like 4 or 5 or 6 bottles of water to get us through this 3.5 hour show. So I was in line trying to get us water when Kazarian defeated Eddie. So I
And,
have not seen that match. I did
and they
I
were,
did hear it.
yeah, the waters were room temperature.
No, the waters were ice cold, but the indoor venue that we were at was so packed that it was just sweaty and hot. Granted, they really did crank up the AC about an hour in, so it did help a lot. But at the time when the Kazarian Edwards match was going on, like we needed water significantly, and yeah, so it was definitely one of those where I'll have to go back and rewatch the opening match. Huh. The Denver Nuggets are your 2023 NBA champions.
Has that ever been a thing?
The Nuggets winning a title? No. This is their first time ever.
Well, that's good.
Good for Nikola Jokic. Good for him. Good for the boys. Marcus, what do you think of Kazarian Edwards?
I thought it was good, man. Look, it's gonna be two of your best. It's gonna be two. As you know, the marriage is going strong on screen now again. So that happened, but Kazarian ended up putting it out as he should. And yeah, it was a good quality outing. They probably could have turned it up a notch, but this may not very well be done. Knowing Edwards, then again, I guess you would know better than me coming up, but I think they could have went a little bit harder. But it was the opening match.
So I just saw a tweet that said, "I think it's time for Trey Miguel to re-enter the main event scene. He's found his strides as a heel, and Trey feuding with the likes of Shelley, Aldis, Kazarian, Bailey could make for very good TV. Listen, people liked the fact that Trey was from Ohio. That was it. That was it. Because when he lost, people popped for for Saban, like popped hard. So I don't think people realize. And if Miguel's not gonna get over in his home state, the fuck no. Like you can like Trey Miguel all you want, but the dude is a C tier mid carder. Very good hand, very good hand. But the dude is balding pretty hard. He's got a terrible fucking look. Those tattoos are not helping his image. He doesn't look or feel like a main eventer. Like you got Chris Bay and Ace Austin out here who are looking like main event stars ready to go, and then like you got Chris Bay and it's like really, nah, son. Anyway, back to the rants. Speaking of ABC, great match with the Good Hands. The Good Hands had some spots where I was like, specifically John Schuyler. I'm told is like this really good worker. But there were a few times where Skyler just wasn't in position and looked really bad, especially from where I was sitting, which was like 9, 10 rows deep. And I could still see how bad he was at times. I'm like, really? Really? This is the guy you think is so good? Brian Myers did cut a nice little promo, and ABC, despite being heels, were super over all weekend. And Ace Austin, I think, is from Vegas, and I don't know where Bay is. I want to say like Virginia. I think he and Swan are from like the same area.
Not from Las Vegas.
Ace Austin. Actually, Ace Austin is from Reading, Pennsylvania, and Chris Bay is from Alexandria, Virginia.
Nice.
I was right on one of those.
Yeah, they're just too good. But if you don't like them when they come out, by the time the match is done, you're gonna be head over heels. Just too good.
Mm-hmm. And he was. They were both very good. Bay and Austin really did bring their best game.
Yeah, it was good. Now I don't think the match matched what they did with the culture kids. I know I messed it up
No,
with
yeah, the subculture.
yeah, the subculture. But
I agree. I agree with that.
yeah, but yeah.
Subculture was a lot better, but then again, they're a lot better than the Good Hands. I
Yeah.
think the Good Hands need to get away from this typical villain heel thing because it's not working for them. If they really embraced the concept of good hands, like where they're good wrestlers and like that's what they do, like a modern day
Mhm.
Benoit Malenko, they may have something, but right now you're not seeing what they could be and should be. So I wasn't too impressed with them. I would say honestly, outside of the women's tag match, this was probably my least favorite match of the night, only because the Good Hands just weren't good enough. So, Masha and Killer Kelly had a dog collar match that was one for the ages. It didn't get bloodied like I thought it would, but and to kind of like explain who my girlfriend is in a sentence, she's who you make things for. Like, if you want to know if your heel turn worked, or if your horror movie is scary enough, or if your love story is sappy enough, she's the test audience. She'll give you that reaction you're looking for. And if she doesn't give it to you, you know you failed. Like me, I've seen and done so much in my life where if something happens, I'm like, huh, very nonplussed about it. But her, she was like, huh? And when she was watching the Masha Killer Kelly match, she was very enthralled with the violence, and she would scream and like sit back and like not look at times. I'm like, this is who like Impact wishes they had like 1,500 of her every week,
See now when you was talking earlier about how you know you're over, attaboy.
right? And the thing is, like, she loved it. It was violent, and she was like, but like she was like, I love that. That was so much fun. Killer Kelly is getting, I think, the short end of the stick, but I think they're building to something bigger with her. I like that Masha went over. Like, this is one of those, like, I love this feud because they're such good workers. They're so talented, but like, I don't want them together right now because Killer Kelly needs a lot on her own to be built up with. And I feel like since Masha lost her streak, she needs more work done to get back up there. And I think they're building them up for a tag title run, which is again one of those things like I don't want to see yet because you just put the belts on Kylan King and Taylor Wilde.
Yeah, and they're actually good. I
Right.
like Rosemary, and I know just trying something different, going back to Courtney Rush, but anything affiliated with seeing more of Jessica, I'm good. I'm good on that. Um, so if
Didn't
I
didn't see her at all this weekend. Like she was there too, but she didn't wrestle at all this weekend. I think she may have done some backstage stuff because we didn't see any backstage segments. Like
got you,
outside like the pay per view,
got
but
you.
I she didn't wrestle at all. She they didn't even have Courtney Rush come out and do anything, but they were there. Like they were doing autograph signings before the TV tapings. So I thought that was
I
interesting.
don't, yeah, I don't know how it's gonna go with come Slammiversary because obviously we talked about where it could potentially go. But it'll be nice if like out of nowhere, for Slammiversary, she's just naturally, she's the Russian, doesn't speak, naturally violent, doesn't speak English. She could be, I guess, to Naomi what they're making Brock be for Cody.
Maybe I think what they're doing with Slamovich and Kelly though is they're gonna forge them into a tag team. There's more
Oh, that'll
stuff.
be
Yeah, there's more stuff to come on the Impact side of things, like when the TV show airs, which I'm trying to not spoil for you. But
gotcha.
like, it does feel like they're trying to do
It,
like a Daniel Styles type of tag team.
it makes sense. I mean, when you look at that match, and we always, the best of enemies make, some sick partners in it because you look at that match, it's like, which one's the bad guy? The redhead. Damn it.
You
Yeah.
take the old one. No, you take the old one. I'll take the ugly one. Which one's the ugly one?
You won.
It's like you take the scary one. No, you take the scary one. I'll take the scary one. Which one's the scary one?
Which one has the mouthpiece? God damn
There's a fun little like Instagram TikTok thing, and I forget what show it's from, but it's like mark me down for scared and horny. And I feel like when you're watching Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly beat each other with a dog collar, you're like, yeah, mark me down for scared and horny.
it. That is, yeah, but they killed that. That was great. That her hanging her over the ropes was that was yeah. Yeah, they definitely deliver. They don't thankfully they don't do those dog collar matches like that one time that they just was doing like Ultimate X every week that one year.
Oh god, I remember
Uh,
that. That was not great.
God, that was bad. But yeah, when they do it now, man, they make sure they go for it and a few calls for it. And those were definitely the two women that delivered it. So yeah, that was great.
Then we had the X Division title match, Sabin and Trey Miguel. This was a pretty solid offering. It took a while to get going, but once it got going great. You got to see the Styles clash. Trey threw down the I can't remember what the hell. Yeah, the cradle shock. Thank you. I was like, it's shockwave,
Yeah.
static shock, and something shock. I think there was another one. I think Trey threw down the Angel's wings as well at one point. So like there was a lot of callbacks in this, which I
No,
thought was
that
great.
was like Saban pulled out. I think he pulled out Muscle Buster, Styles Clash, Angels Wings, and the Lethal Combination.
Oh, that's right, he did. He also threw and I don't know when he started doing this, but it's great. The clothesline from Hell's, Michigan.
Oh yeah, I think I saw. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's solid. Saban eventually gets the win. This was a real solid match, probably the best singles match Trey has been in. I don't think he's a great singles wrestler. I really don't. I think he's someone who does better in a tag team. But this was maybe his best singles match that at least I remember seeing over the last year. They did a lot of great 6-man stuff with the Rascals, and I feel like that's where he shines. And I was really hoping that we would get something like Zachary Wentz and Myron Reed showing up, but that didn't happen. Then we got the what do you think of the X Division match? The X Division title match.
I thought it was great. I thought the callbacks was great. Like you said, I mean, I'm a little bit more of a fan. I'm more of a fan of Trey obviously than you are, but uh, like he had a hell of a run as X Division champion. Like I never liked the defacing of the title, but uh, that's an aesthetic thing, and obviously that went with the character. It wasn't just for the sake of it. So But it was time. He had a hell of a run. I think what he surpassed Austin Aries thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. Have a quality person with the record. Um,
Well, actually, I think he no, I think he was the record holder already. 'Cause I don't think. Let me double check.
I want to say they said it on commentary. Was it Raywald that said it? He passed. Well, not with. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know when he did it. I don't know if it was that night, but I think by the time we got to the match, he had been the longest reigning.
So Saban. Oh, you mean Trey was the longest reigning?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking about Saban. That may be more. That may be accurate. Let me double check. Oh no, he's significantly short. Aries held the belt for 298 days for a one-term run, and Miguel held it for 203 days.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess he was like closing in on the record.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that first reign that Aries had was epic, leading up to the first concept of Option C. Um, but yeah, it was great. It was a great showing, and but we called it. It was like it was time. If you're gonna do it, make it significant with somebody who could use it, and hopefully, like you said, Saban do the 9-time thing just once, and now we finna get a whole nother slew of matches. This when you bring back in to me Bailey and guys like Gresham who I guess aren't necessarily done. Uh, but that could be a great three-way or great two great singles.
I think they're gonna do because they did a tag match with Gresham and Speedball for the Impact tapings, and I think the idea might be to put them against ABC at Slammiversary, which
That's a show stealer, man. That's go ahead, just go ahead, just set it up for 3.5 stars now, and then we'll.
just it yeah, it's already a 4.5 star match, like just the concept. And I hope if they go that route that it's just Speedball and Gresh versus ABC because like they like to do a lot of multi-man tag matches. I hope it's just the two
Yeah,
teams.
yeah. Don't put in them with the good hands with somebody else, and then with Heath and Rhino or something, and then call it tag team eliminator. Just no, just you do that with the tag. I mean, you do that with them, the X Division. You do that with the world title. It gets it on. Just keep it singles. Just keep it simple.
And like that was another thing. I thought we were going to see Rhino tonight, but we didn't see, or not tonight, but over the weekend didn't see Rhino.
Do we
Uh,
know if he's injured or do you just?
no, I don't know if he's injured or not, but I was bothered. So Saban's held the belt for 9 times. He's the longest reigning champion combined with 435 combined days. Trey Miguel is close at 385. Oh, this is what he beat him at, Marcus. Trey Miguel surpassed Austin Aries in combined days reign.
Gotcha.
He's now second all time behind Saban, who has 435 days counting, and Aries was third with 373 days counting.
Gotcha.
So that's what it was. And Miguel's only done that on 2 reigns.
Yeah.
So, um, so that was that. The 841 or yeah, the 841 match was solid. People
As
hated Bully. People
they should.
loved Heath and Swan and
As
Bailey.
they, as they should.
Right. It was good. Nothing I'd say. I wouldn't say it was the match of the night. I wouldn't say it was a show stealer, but it was exactly what you needed it to be. You got
Yeah.
Nick Aldis the win, so he's going to be going over to Slammiversary in the main event against Alex Shelley now. Fans liked it. It was a good pro wrestling match. Just I wouldn't build a show around this gimmick, but it's nice to have on a card because I do agree with you. I think it's a good way to determine who the number one contender could be because it's you get a lot of big names. You get to protect guys like Bully, who don't move that well, and like PCO who doesn't move that well, and you can like add their name value to the match. So it was good. And Gresham and Bailey's start and part of it was maybe the best part about the entire match. So overall,
Yeah.
I think it was a very solid
Yeah.
outcome.
The more came out there and had a good moment. I like the whole thing of like I'm trying to hold decorum here and then try to keep the fact that I'm a boss, but this fucker put me through a flaming table. Um, so that
And
was
that
yeah,
does pop back up later on in the taping. So
which I appreciate consistency and storytelling. But yeah, the 841 thing, like I said, I hope they continue to do that because it kind of lines the things up in a good way. Get everybody who's an actual contender, even though this was predictable, because one side just is like either you guys have been champion or recently had title shots and
hmm
lost. So that was the thing. I don't necessarily know about Nick going over at Slammiversary. I'm not gonna call that yet, because I could easily see Macklin playing a sour puss spoiler. Uh, but you never know. Like I said, they surprised us here. Potentially, they should, hopefully surprise us there.
speaking of surprising, the knockout tag match was the worst match of the night, counting the untelevised pre-show match with Yu Amora. And it's not like, that was not on Yuya. It was just a very plotting, basic match.
The Impact match that it wasn't on Trent or Deanna.
Well, actually, some of it was. Giselle looked bad, but Trinity kept trying to do the spot off the middle rope where she would like jump back off the middle rope and kick somebody, but every time she did, her knee would buckle and she'd just fall into the rope. I think she tried it twice. I don't know how it looked on TV, but it didn't look good. And like Giselle was out of her spot. Savannah was trying so very hard to catch up with the botches so she could like overcompensate because for whatever reason, whenever Trinity did like her spot, she did them when Savannah was in the ring. I would have to go back and rewatch the show, for the match itself to see how it looked on TV. But just from a lot, like, it was the deadest the crowd had been all night. It was the least interesting match and like people were up for Trinity when she came out. Like it wasn't one of those where like Trinity just didn't have the support. Like Trinity had one of the highest ovations in the crowd, and everyone was super into it. So like it wasn't one of those situations where they just weren't popping for the talent. The talent failed in this match, in at least in a live perspective. I don't know how everyone felt about it on TV. You'll have to give me that perspective, but a lot of people were going ooh instead of ooh when the botches occurred. What did you
Yeah,
think of it?
it's interesting. It very much should have been reserved for Impact. This was a match that got more women on the show. Um, which you also like to see, but uh, it was very much middle of the show, Impact of the week match. Um, I think Naomi Trinity is trying to. It seems like she's trying to work some new stuff into her arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying it out, and like you said, she's trying it out on Evans, and Evans being a good sport because she's supposed to be this big. She's supposed to be the hoss. So a lot of it is she's fine. She's crazy athletic, so she's finding a lot of it in the moment, and some of it's working off the dome, and some of it's still needing to be worked. So I got to go back and watch the spot that you talked about because I don't know if I even remember her going for like you said that kick off the springboard and not hitting it, but very pliable because a lot of her stuff is very much motivated by a spring or something to that effect or some type of jumping maneuver. So, but yeah, it's I don't know if this ever could have been that level of like wow because like you said, Savannah is not Savannah, but Giselle is cool, but she's not wow or anything like that, and so
As like a personality, I really do like Giselle.
yeah,
She has a real presence about herself. Um, she's tall, she's lanky, and like that gives her a very unique look. The thing that I think holds her back is I don't think she's overly athletic, or at least athletic enough to hang with certain types. I think if you put her in a match with like Alicia or Navia or Neva, whatever you were calling her, or Kylan King maybe, I think you could get a decent matching out of her, or even Savannah, even Deanna. But someone like Trinity, somebody who's more acrobatic and high flying, I don't think she keeps up. I don't think her footwork's good enough. I think she is a bit plotting, and I think that does hinder her. But she was one of the better heels throughout the weekend. Like she got like whenever there was a lull in the crowd, she was able to get people into the match just by shouting very generic like Columbus is terrible, and everyone's like woo, and it's like It's not exactly Mick Foley, but it's working.
Yeah. And then also I think the guy helps. I forgot his name exactly, but they're
Jay Vidal.
yeah, Jay Vidal. I think
Or
he's
Jai Vidal. It's
he,
Jai Vidal. Vidal.
yeah, he's working in there. Not the beautiful. They're more like the brutal people, but
Which is, that wouldn't be a bad idea for a nickname. Speaking of the brutal people, let's talk about Ohio versus everything. So this match only went 15 minutes, and at the time, my girl looked at me and goes, "How is that not the last match?" Because it was so fucking nuts,
I'm digging this chick. I'm
right?
digging.
She's
That's
she's good people. She's good people. This was like Alan Angels made himself into a star in this match. Like he really did. So everything about this match worked. I loved every moment of it. The barbed wire, the thumbtacks. The Jake Chris Cutter was my favorite moment of the night, and the fact that I got it on on my phone and captured it. Oh, that was so cool. I love that. I'm so happy about that. Easily the best match of the night, and like I even looked at her and she's like, how's this not the last match of the night? I said to her like, the only way this makes sense to not end the show on is if they're gonna do Alex Shelley winning. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
of course being Impact and being a fan of this company for years.
We know that that may not have been always the case. Like they have a tendency to, as the kids say, fuck around and find out. Thankfully, though, Marcus, they did not fuck around. What did you think of the OVE match? Because like you saw some stuff that I didn't see. One of the Fulton Con stuff I didn't see at all because like of where it was in the arena, and like the fact was like they were doing their thing, but I think it was
They,
Diener and Jake were in front of us, so like we were like
yeah,
focusing on him, and then we just heard a thump, and
they
then we
did.
went, ooh! I was like, wait, what happened? And then we just didn't see Fulton anymore.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's the perfect description of it because they did the classic two big man ramp. Oh no, what's over the edge? Is it a table? Oh shit, what's gonna happen? We're gonna do the distance hug and the fall.
I'll never let go. I'll never let go.
Jack.
The thing is though, this was like a violently beautiful match. Everyone loved it. Sammy Callihan and OVE as a whole were just super fucking over. And like the last time I went to, it turns out the last time I went to a wrestling show live was the last time Impact was in Ohio, which was 2013. 2013, when they did a double shot in Cleveland. They had Sting, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. Like it was a loaded fucking card, right? It's incredibly thick. But even like that was 3,000, 4,000 people that watched that show. Even with that, I'd never heard an Impact moment in Ohio be as loud as watching OVE come out, do their destruction, and then win. Maybe a quarter of the crowd that was in Columbus, that was in Cleveland 10 years ago, and they were far louder.
Yeah, and look, when you think about this, it's also great storytelling in terms of just watching it. Thing that happened with Callahan because he went from being a solo guy, then building OVE, then leading OVE, seemingly either making it or allowing it to kind of fall by the wayside and fall apart, going off on his own again, doing that whole thing to be world champion and whatnot. Then, obviously he got injured, comes back, just trying to find his way because he's the aesthetic exchange, and then he falls into this lull and gets, caught up in this whole design thing, and then that eventually leads him back home with the OV thing. So I think it's a great full story of stuff, and the fact that they brought Fulton in, which really, because we talking about like, okay, they're gonna have Swan roped into this because he basically had to go back to his brother to get help, and then he gets put in another situation with the title, and it almost ended up working out for the best because they was able to bring Fulton in. Because they needed a monster to match the other guy. Because as great as Swan is, it's like he could just get tossed around like you know, uh, like a toy.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended up working out for the best. And they've done, I can't think of a time where they've been them Jonah matches, any of the PCO stuff. Um, like you said, that match with Macklin, which of course the more PCO stuff, but they really should do like at the end of the year, like maybe for the past 2 years, and compilation videos of these hardcore matches called like a hardcore symphony or something. They've
That'd be
not
dope.
missed with these matches.
They don't miss at all. These have been some of the better matches of the year, and just to see them play out like they have has been phenomenal.
Yeah, like
Let's go.
even the one
Yes,
with Trey and Crazy Steve was crazy. Like
yes, it was.
what Steve should have won though. Yeah.
Poor Steve. I'm pulling for you, buddy. Shelley versus Macklin with the main event. I'll tell you what. Shelley got a nice ovation. Macklin got a huge negative ovation. Apparently, Ohio did not like Macklin. And like, I don't think Macklin's from anywhere offensive, like for an Ohioan. He's from Rutherford, New Jersey. Like, we only care about Michigan and Detroit. Like, otherwise, like, we're cool with you. But
They might have.
Macklin got booed, and someone in the crowd got a little bit high on their britches because he screamed out, "Macklin, you're a bitch!" And like right before, like right after, like they got in the ring, and like you'll see him on camera, he stopped, kind of grabbed the rope, and stared off into the corner of the arena. That's because the guy was screaming, "Macklin, you're a bitch," and Steve Macklin did not take too kindly to that. Ohio does not like Steve Macklin, but I think that's also a testament to Steve Macklin as a performer because he got everyone to hate him, which was great.
No, it's been working. Like he's been more hit than miss for me. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, a lot of that is backed by the fact that it has been pretty much a 2 year build to the spot that he got in. It wasn't just like, oh, all of a sudden he rung a string of matches, a series of matches, and then he's in. Like, no, they really built him up. Uh, and I wanted to say, like, they didn't like him. Was it a room full of dudes who found out, like, right before he came out that he was Deanna Purrazzo's husband? Uh,
No, I just don't think they liked him. I don't even remember if there was a backstage promo or anything that they did prior to his arrival.
yeah.
But
They,
yeah,
yeah, I think they did something with him and Gia when she caught him coming out to got him coming out of his locker room, and he made her do the what is it, Gia? Tack him, back him, which is working. Like I think he's done a really good job to stay consistent with this. He's also one of those heels that doesn't necessarily run, which
mm-hmm.
I which because the coward heel thing has been done a death and then 10 times over that. So it's gonna be interesting seeing it because I know you've seen what a lot of this stuff is gonna be interesting seeing how he rebounds from this because essentially when he comes back, although the cruel irony of Alexander having the longest and shortest reign as champion, he really could go over back and like, you only made it through one defense or a couple defenses. You're not the man. You're definitely not me. So
Well, the one thing that I'll say is they are setting him up. This is a minor spoiler, but they're going to be doing a tag team match at Slammiversary with Macklin and Bully versus Scott D'Amore and PCO. I don't know why PCO, but I'll tell you what, that man better be getting hazard pay because PCO was the highlight of the weekend, especially on Saturday night when he did the main event of the tapings, which was now I don't know where it'll air in the TV scheduling, but it was him versus Diener, and Diener got himself a huge weekend because like he did that burning hammer on the Jake Christ. People were freaking out over that one. But
yeah,
they are building Macklin up to be in a significant program at Slammiversary. So clearly they're still high on Macklin. I think when when Alexander went down, the goal was always to have Shelley win the belt, but I think they needed to bridge that gap somehow because when you look at like what was going on with Macklin and D'Amore and what they were building up to, clearly this has always been the idea, and I think it was the right idea. And when you think about when Macklin won the belt, the Guns were finishing their stuff off with ABC, so it's not like you could throw Shelley into the main event as well. So I get why they did what they did. with that now. It all very much makes sense. I don't know if I want to see Macklin win the belt back eventually, but I do know that he and Shelley put on a hell of a match, at least live.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Fans were super into it.
It, it was good because it actually had a game. Like Shelley had, he knew he had to break this guy down. The Macklin's, he's not little. He's kind of, he's kind of thick, and he hits hard. And it's like Shelley had to systematically break that guy down, and telling that story of basically Macklin's tactics ended up working against him. Um, like he definitively beat him. There ain't no he got to roll up. He made him tap all this stuff. Like he definitively beat him. And like you said, he ain't no technical wizard or anything, but he does what he does well. As a bit of a brute and whatnot, and yeah, I thought they gelled well together.
I really did think that they gelled well too, and the match kind of hit its almost perfectly. It hit its crescendo when he did the super slice bread number 2,
Oh yeah,
and Macklin kicked out, and everyone's floored. Like there were grown men with their hands in their face. I had my hands in my face. I was like, wait, what? I was so invested in this.
and
I'm
when's the
just
last
sitting.
time you felt like that? How many dusty finishes have we had
Oh,
in these world title matches? I'm still burned in my psyche. Is the damn Samoa Joe coming out the ground or getting yanked into the ground?
right.
Like, Jesus, like they have treated them world title main events like just nothing over the years, and that. So the fact that they got you after all this time, we could pretty much predict most things at this point to a T. Got you that invested. I mean, obviously you was there live, so that had an added element with the crowd. But like legitimately invested to the point you was like, oh my god, like you was damn near the Undertaker guy for a minute.
I I was the Brock Lesnar guy actually. The guy who remember when Brock came back and he's like, yeah. Ah. The one thing that I will say is, um, usually they do telegraph who's gonna win, right? So that's always a not so great thing for me. But I think the last time I really got popped was when Eli. Oh no, because I read the spoilers on that one. They didn't do that. I would probably say it was when Pentagon won it. Because Redemption was live. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, Pentagon came with that CL made the hell out of Austin Harris, which looking back was an early Christmas gift.
It was.
Yeah,
Too bad that they don't know how to book him properly anymore. Because he is not great. Like, he's still a good hand, obviously. But, like,
yeah, but now looking at it like that potentiality of getting him back and having him have matches with the likes of Shelley and Saban and Bailey and Gresham, and obviously I don't necessarily know where he's at physically because he peaked in Lucha Underground.
and he is
Uh,
almost 40. He's 38.
yeah, and he's a tour de force. He still got that aesthetic, and then like I don't know if any interest music will top what he had, but yeah, it'll just be sick. Both him and Phoenix, but I get it. They got their whole thing and the Lucha roles and tag titles and all that. But it will be cool to see him back in the Impact Zone, and maybe we could potentially get that. Things are lining up pretty exciting off the rip with the second multiverse of matches.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
They already announced that Tanahashi's going to be a part of it. So that's great. I don't think he was at the last one. I think he was hurt at the last one. Let me double check. So the main event for against Laws was fantastic. Shelley got the win. Very emotional. Saban came out. It was a wonderful way to end the first night of TV tapings, and I would highly recommend going to see an Impact show because they really do work their ass. The women's tag match suffered because they were trying to be something more. So I'm never
Yeah.
gonna sit there and be like, "Well, you suck." No, they tried. which is more than you can say for a lot of television shows, and TV matches and promotions anymore. Not everyone does their best effort looking at you, NWA. But this was one of those outings I think people would really enjoy. And yeah, if they come to your town anytime soon, I suggest you go see them live. I have more photos to post. I will probably post those either to my Instagram or to the uh,
Yeah,
um, show's Twitter account. There we go. So
yeah,
it's
looking
either
forward.
NERD on Twitter, NERD CORP on Twitter, or Chad's Photo Hut on Instagram, CHEDSPHOTOHUT. So be sure to check those out. Minor note before we move on to the rest of the news. I was supposed to meet up with Swisher Saturday night after the TV tapings. Unfortunately, he had to cancel on us because he had to put his cat down. If you've ever had a pet, you know that that is a very tough situation to be in. I don't know if he's since put the cat down. I know he was pretty broken up. So best wishes to our good friend Swish. It's never easy saying goodbye to something you love.
Yeah, shout out to Swish, man. Looking forward to hearing from him soon. But yeah, that's never easy. I've had to, uh, you know, watch three of my dogs over the years pass away. So it's that connection with an animal, whether it be dog, cat, or whatever have you, is never easy, particularly when you got to take it and have it, you know, taken away like that. So yeah, good feelings and vibes to Swish, man. I'm pretty sure y'all will link up
Mm-hmm.
eventually.
Yeah, he's already said that he's going to try to make it up here next month. All right. With that being said, we do have some less fun stuff to talk about, starting with BJ Whitmer. So BJ Whitmer has always been a controversial figure, if you will, in wrestling. I remember 2011 or 2010, Tony Gazina, the trainer of Davey Richards, had a match with a young man at the time who was maybe 15 or 16 years old, and the kid did something that Cozina didn't like. So in retaliation, he shoot pile drove him into the ground without protecting his neck, and it caused a lot of hubbubaloo. Davey and Kyle O'Reilly took a lot of blowback because they were Cozina's students at the time. Wasn't well received, and then like a few weeks later, Davey was accused of running off with a promoter's money. It was a bad year for those guys. Now, at the time, one of the biggest descending voices to what Cozina did was our boy Adam Pierce. Adam Pierce, like, you don't do that. There's no reason to do that. That is disgusting. Whitmer goes, well, you know what? If he's being a little shit, that's how I was trained. So you know what? Fuck him. And Pierce like, no, no. Just because you were trained poorly doesn't mean that we should continue doing stupid shit. Because Adam Pierce is better than the WWE will ever actually let him be. I love that man. So like that was when I was really introduced to BJ Whitmer. Then there were accusations that Whitmer. I want to see if I can get this right. BJ Whitmer. So apparently, okay. So if I remember correctly, so he was married to somebody named Kelly Klein. Kelly Klein was Ring of Honor's Gail Kim when they were trying to relaunch their women's division. She was a hell of a talent. I don't even know if she's still wrestling anymore. She suffered a concussion, and she hasn't wrestled since 2019. And she was married to BJ Whitmer, but apparently she cheated on him, causing there to be some big hubbubaloo. And apparently it may have been with Joey Mercury. Who knows? I have no idea. But Whitmer has always been somebody who has fallen into the less than reputable side of wrestling, which always made it a little weird that he ended up in AEW, who are like super, and like not to use the term derogatorily, but if you want to, that's fine because AEW is kind of woke, if you will. BJ Whitmer is. If we're gonna call AEW woke, I think we can call BJ Whitmer alt. So it was always a weird pairing, right? It'd be like if if Giselle Shaw was working a Republican uh, um, political party, right? The trans woman doing Republican voter signups, like there's some sincere hilarity with that. Well, it turns out his tenure with AEW is already over, as he's been arrested on charges of first degree strangulation and second degree burglary, though the details of what actually happened are not privy to me at the moment. They may be out there on the interwebs by the time you hear this. They might already be out there by the time I'm speaking about it, but I don't know what they are. So, like, part of me is like, yeah, fuck BJ Whitmer. He's not a great dude. He's very problematic. On the other side, it's like he hasn't even been convicted yet. Like, they're just allegations. He's been arrested, sure, and charged, yeah, obviously, but we're already gonna fire him, and it's like, this is a sticky wicket. Like there is no good way to handle this, and I know that. You know, you either keep him on and you get slammed by the more progressives for not acting quickly enough, or you fire him and you deal with the more conservative folks. You're like, you're firing a man who's not even been determined to be guilty yet. Maybe AEW knows more about what actually happened than we do. Maybe they've seen the police report. Maybe they know the facts of the case, or at least the statements of the case. But to us, it looks like he got arrested and got fired for being arrested. And on one hand, yeah, he's in charge of the women's division, or at least he was working with the women. I don't remember where I read that. Here we go. Tony Khan's coming since 2019 and has been working with a number of competitors on the roster, specifically the women's division. The thing is, I would say that if this is the case for just being arrested, then it needs to be very regular. It needs to be a reoccurring thing. Like Jeff Hardy, next time he gets arrested, better be getting fired. Because you can't just determine that one crime is more significant than the other if they're getting arrested. If somebody gets arrested, that should be the baseline for being fired. I don't care that BJ Whitmer got fired. I don't disbelieve the notion that he strangled somebody. He strikes me as the kind of guy that would absolutely strangle someone. What I'm kind of miffed about with all this is that AEW is falling into the WWE trend of, well, we're going to treat people differently for the things they've done. Because keep in mind, we know that the executive vice presidents of the company started a fight with employees, resulting in animal abuse. And they were suspended. But we know they did that. We have eyewitnesses. People have spoken about it at length as to what happened. But they get suspended. And Whitmer, who right now, he said, she said, is already out of a job. And it's just like, are we going to pretend that this isn't WWE light at this point? Like, what are we doing here? They didn't make the move I think they should have made, because the move they should have made was firing Omega and the Young Bucks when the first fight happened, instilling a zero tolerance for shenanigans. But instead, Tony Khan has created a situation where different people, depending on their placement in the company, will get different treatment. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. I've always been a guy where it's either all okay or none of it's okay. I've always been a guy that I will treat you the way I want to be treated, and I hope you treat me the way you hope to be treated by me. And seeing this makes me angry, not because PJ Whitmer doesn't deserve to be fired, because if the allegations are true, which I believe they are, he should be fired. It's that there are so many others on this company that should be fired as well. Like, think about it. Like, there were accusations against who's the ring announcer for AEW.
Shoot. I was gonna say Tony. Not Tony.
Right? I was thinking Tony too.
Not Steel Hall.
I was thinking is like Tony Conwick. No, that's the owner. Justin Roberts?
Yeah,
Is that who
because
it is?
did you have a little plane incident with the phone?
No, that was Hammerfin. Justin Roberts was accused of. I don't remember the exact allegations. I don't want to say them, but he was accused of maybe having a little digital tete-a-tete with somebody who may not have been appropriate. Now, I don't
Okay.
know how accurate the accusation was, but it was during speaking out. is during that whole 2020 sweep of things where guys like Jimmy Havoc and who was that one? Something. Ah, damn it, what was his name? David Starr, I think is what it was named. Like those guys ended up getting just destroyed and left asunder away from wrestling. And I want to say that Justin Roberts was among those that was finger pointed. Justin Roberts accusations. Let's see what Google has to offer. So here we go. From bodyslam.net. The list of names mentioned as part of the Speaking Out movement continues to grow, and now former WWE and current AEW ring announcer Justin Roberts is being accused of sexual misconduct. A fan came forward earlier today with screenshots of DMs she had with Justin Roberts back in 2014 when she was only 17 years old. During the communication, Roberts tries to convince the girl to send him some not safe for work photos, nudes. She said that she was naive and that she had never been spoken to in such a manner. Quote, I've held on to this for a long time. I felt ashamed somehow. I felt it was my fault. I was 17, naive, and it had never been spoken to in such a manner. It makes me so uncomfortable looking back at it now. Legal or not, a man in his 30s has no right to talk to a teenager. This is terrifying, but the right thing to do. And yes, he was aware I was a teenager. Legal age in the UK is 16, but if you think it's okay for a man in his 30s to convince with such a young girl still growing physically and mentally like this, you need a serious reality check. Now, the thing is, I think this didn't go any further because there wasn't a lot of evidence here. But I will say that just from what I understand with law, if you are soliciting nudes from a minor overseas, well, that's a case for the FBI, and 20 years. So I don't know if they were ever investigated. I don't know if AEW ever investigated. But yeah, to say that AEW has a clean roster and a history of guys that don't fuck around, it would be a lie. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega invited a pedophile. Maybe pedophile is not the right word, but a sexual abuser, a man who I think at one time or still is on the watch list in Florida. What is it called, the sexual registries or
Yeah.
something like that. Kenny Omega invited a guy who's on the sex registry to Fighter Fest 2019 or 2018 or whatever it was. So this is a company that has a history of not exactly taking these things seriously, and it feels odd that BJ Whitmer is now going to be the sacrificial lamb. So Tony can be like, "See, we do take this stuff seriously." And listen, if I was the owner of this company, I would absolutely fire BJ Whitmer. I just wouldn't have only fired BJ Whitmer. That's the issue. Marcus, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a sticky situation with those things because you don't want to jump to conclusion, even though if a person has had a track record of being a less than laudable human, particularly in this particular instance of industry. But yeah, to your point, definitely would have fired him. But it is a case of doing certain things out of convenience, um, because a lot of times it's the term about it's not show friends, it's show business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this particular instance of business, a lot of times things kind of lean more towards the benefits of others that work for Tony because it show friends a lot of times over there. And we talked about it before. When you're kind of on the outside of that, you don't necessarily get the level of access or um, benefit of the doubt that you would if you were one of his guys, or, buddies or whatnot. So it sucks from that regard, but um, Whitmore was one of those guys where you could have even probably before this cut bait with, and probably kind of looked at it as a level of like it's not really somebody we need. This is one less check because I'm pretty sure funds are being doled out enough as it is. So he was convenience for the PR and a good cost cutting measure.
That does seem to be the case. Now, whether or not he did it, we'll leave that up to
The law.
yeah. Fucking hell, I love that movie so much. And we'll also keep an eye out for any further developments in the case. If the charges get dropped, like I don't know what you do with that. Like, I don't know how you can sit there and be like, well, yeah, we fired him, and now he's not actually being charged with anything. It's like, do you bring him back? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of feel like one of the things better be safe than sorry. And if it's not one of them things, it's like no harm, no foul. Maybe we see you down the road, maybe we don't, because we probably got 4 or 5 other people that fill in your position or something, or that could fill your position. I don't know what he did or was doing that maybe somebody like Jake couldn't be doing. You know, particularly if he's there, um, and not necessarily working with Murder Hawk. Because he's somebody that very much benefits emotionally from being still around the business and working in that capacity. So they probably there's probably no hair off their back. But yeah, they if it comes back that it's not the case, which like I said, we ain't got no personal stakes in it. We took the same stance when it came to somebody like Amore and others. These situations get real complicated sometimes. You kind of have to allow the facts and the evidence to kind of do it because this court of public opinion is trash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So to be clear, the name that Kenny Omega was associated with for a while was Chasen Rance. He's claimed that he didn't know Chasen, but there has been photos prior to the events where he was seen with Chasen. So,
You hate to see that because it's like I didn't know him, and then photos come out, and if it's one, people are like, oh, it was a fan thing, and then this other like, no, that's a family function.
uh,
Wedding.
and this wasn't an AEW show. That was the part I got wrong. It was a New Japan show. It was New Japan and CEO, whatever that is. It was
which
when they did the Worlds Collide.
which is even worse because they really don't play over there.
No. So, with that being said, let's move on to Rhea Ripley getting a new belt. How do we feel about it? It's basically the new World Heavyweight Championship belt, but with a white strap. What's your thoughts on that, Marcus?
If they could get any more unoriginal with the way they're doing these titles, they'd actually have to make a title and call it unoriginal.
Yeah.
Like it's that bad. Like they even have the same podium for this stuff. Like it's lazy, but it's where they are. You know. And if they had done this potentially in the first place with far more creativity, they wouldn't have to be doing this now. But again, you know, they're gonna always do what they're gonna do, and they're gonna slap that stupid W in the middle of everything. It's gonna be God, and it's gonna throw off the whole concept of it. And it's just you're not getting those days of old back with the eagle and the unique styles. Any of them. I feel like the best looking title they may have right now is basically feels like the toss up between the mid card titles being the U.S. and the Intercontinental.
Mm-hmm. So, what I will say, it's like finding out that your best friend killed 34 puppies.
Jeez.
Hang on. But then also finding out that he committed tax fraud. I'm already so upset about the 34 puppies. Tax fraud doesn't mean anything to me. Like that's how I feel about these new women belts. I was already mad. I'm not going to be as mad for the same nonsense. Like I've been there, done that. What I will say is, I do like having the separate titles. That you have your WWE Universal World Heavyweight or whatever the fuck they're calling it, and your WWE Women's World Heavyweight or Women's WWE Championship and Women's WWE World Heavyweight or World Championship and what have you. That's a better structure than Raw Women's Champion and SmackDown Men's Champion.
Yeah.
Because now if they change shows, they just change shows.
Exactly.
So like there's some intelligence to this, but the belt design is utter trash. Like I will say this, and like compare it. Like we have to be what's the word I'm looking for? We have to be honest about this as far as prior instances, right? These belts, even the one with the like the exploding globe out of the world championships, right? Even that's not as ugly as the spinner belt. So like we are in a golden age of titles, and we don't need to worry about truly ugly ones. Like these aren't great titles. They're dry and lifeless, soulless even, but they're at least not as ugly as the spinner belt. Now, maybe you like the spinner belt. I did not. But when you think about past titles, like we've seen worse. We have the Intercontinental title that Gunther's walking around with. We've seen worse. We've seen worse. So I'm of the mindset that it could have been worse, but it's not good. Because like remember, Marcus, we survived the Global Force title belt, and then the Impact Global Force title belt. We survived
Man,
that.
oh, that was God, man. That all the times we have lived through
All
as
right.
fans, Jesus. But yeah, like you said, the best thing about it is they saw the folly in their own logic when it comes to making those brand specific titles, and they corrected it. But like you said, I guess you kind of got to get over the belt create the creativity less of it all, and just kind of get with the program because it's those days are kind of gone. When you got a specific standout champion that gets to comes a champion, and then they have their own belt. Like obviously, Cena made his own championship that became the thing, and then you had the Rated R championship. I think The Rock had his own championship design. Then Stone Cold have a smoking skull belt. So those
Mm-hmm.
days are long gone. I think the last time we seen any real genuine, I seen this on Twitter today, genuine personal application of self on a titles when Trinity had she put the glow lights on the belt when she was champion. But that's about it. It's a nameplate era now. So
I don't necessarily have a problem with that either. Like that was what New Japan did. That was the big gold belt. The only thing was that was the nameplate. I'm fine with that, right? I'm fine with that. I just the new belt designs aren't great. They're pretty mid, but they're better than terrible, and at least we have that. That doesn't make them good. Just means that like we've seen like Jeff Hardy face paint belt. Guys, we've seen worse. Let's just be honest. Now,
yeah,
do I like the men and women having the same title designs? No. But if you're a new fan, you see that and you go, "Oh, well, those two look alike and those two look alike, so they must be on the same level." So, like, I understand the concepts, I do. I'm just not a fan of it. That's
how
all.
did you? Because I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about it. Well, I asked you about it. Like, how did you feel about the WWE version of the ECW World Titles?
The silver one.
There was a silver one, but before that, the one with the I guess the graffiti type of design on it.
Oh, like the one that was made
Hey,
like the first one.
yeah, how did you feel about those?
The silver one I thought was fine for a belt, not fine for a ECW title. I'm trying to remember because I thought the ECW World Title belt looked like the original. Am I wrong about that? I'm looking up. Let's see, WWE ECW titles. Yeah, the first one with the graffiti was the original, or at least an original design from ECW, and that one wasn't great. Pretty hammy actually. I think the silver ECW belt had a better design to it in terms of like I like the eagle, very simple ECW title. It's a lot more professional looking than the graffiti belt,
Yeah.
but the graffiti belt had better coloring to it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I would. And I think it has a better shape to it. I don't like the gaudy shape that the silver belt had.
Yeah.
So if you were to take the silver design, put it in the shape of the golden graffiti, and change the colors to fit, I think that would have been perfect. But we didn't get that because we can't have nice things. What did you think of it? You like it?
Yeah, I thought that if you had to pick, I'd go with the first one. Like you said, the more colorful design, the easy. Like it was fine. The silver one was fine, but it was never something I think I ever got used to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Completely understand. Last bit of news: Booker T dealing with some controversy because he dared to speak his mind and say something stupid in the process. Booker has been slammed for making comments specifically about Lacey Evans and her repackaging. Speaking of her new Sergeant Slaughter esque look, Booker emphasized that women in wrestling should never lose their sex appeal, saying, quote, "Let me just get this straight. In this business, it's not just about wrestling. Wrestling is a part of it. But becoming a star, I've known a boatload of great wrestlers that could wrap circles around me from a wrestling perspective, but that's not what this thing is really about. It's about entertaining the fans, making the fans feel a certain way, taking them on a journey that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. It's going to be, it's got so much more to do with it than just getting in the ring and wrestling. And if you think that way you're going to be bruised, beat up, and battered and torn by the time your career is over with, and you're going to have no money. And let me be very clear, Marcus. The first time I saw Booker T was like '95 or so. He had fancy flame pants, a high top fade, and he was doing kickaroos. I was a fan. There was a lot of guys with a lot of looks. Not all of them caught my eye. Sting caught my eye. He caught my eye when I was younger, though. You know, you have certain guys that just stand out.
Hmm.
Dare I say, above the crowd, even if I got to shout out loud. So, like, looks matter in wrestling. Now, I don't know what his specific comments were into the lose their sex appeal comment, because I don't think that's true. I don't think women should be, put into a sex appeal only type of conversation. And he's like 57, 58, so like he's not exactly, young, and he'll say things that aren't politically correct.
He also has a Monopoly mustache currently.
Oh, I love that.
Sucker.
I'm going to become a slumlord and drive you out of your houses as I raise the monthly rent. Sucker.
He didn't pass 200. Tell me he didn't just pass. Go.
Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Would you like to buy a rating railroad? So like, looks matter, and we've said this before. We said it 1,000 times. Now I don't mean you need to be attractive. I'm not saying you need to be like I want to fuck him. That's a very Bruce Pritchard, um, um, John
So,
Laurinaitis, Vince McMahon approach to life. But you need to stand out. Like you need to have a look that is so iconic that people go, "Yup." And that's why, like when we talk about people like Danhausen, I'm like, that's a gimmick. That's something that he can do and use and run and go through his career with, making minor alterations along the way. Like that's a memorable gimmick. But I don't think people realize that that's what he meant. But granted, Booker T's also, he's put his foot in his mouth before. He's not always the guy that you want the opinion of. This is the dude that gave Michael P.S.H. a ethnic slur or a racial slur pass, and I don't know why.
I don't. It's heat coming out of Harlem. But yeah, it's also highly subjective, and sometimes Book does this thing, and I've not intentionally watched him, but no, like I think feel like he's also one of those guys because he's a veteran and he's been in the business so long and has a certain level of obviously clout in terms of knowing the interminglings and whatnot. Um, Sometimes he may mean one thing when it's said, and then when he has to come back and re-clarify because he kind of just wants to, dig in and get at the trolls, he might say something different or just stand on what people heard instead of what he actually meant, just because he's pissed. And several people do that on the internet a lot, just to say they got the people's goal or to keep people pissed off. But that concept is highly subjective
Mm-hmm.
because Rosemary stands out differently than most on a traditional scale when it comes to the women. But so is somebody like Awesome Kong. They got two different versions of appeal, two different versions of sex appeal. And if you ask some guys, you ask a room full of 10 guys, they might prefer Kong to Rosemary. But that again, it varies in taste, whatnot. But like to your point, you have to stand out. You don't. It's like the thing. I think you heard a lot of people say this. You go out there, you either getting cheered or getting booed. What you don't want is indifference.
Yeah.
You know
You don't want people to hate you because they find you boring.
exactly.
And that is
It
something that happens quite a bit.
Yeah. So and it's a company, and I get it. The company prevailed for a long time out. Carting those women, picking them out of magazines, or God knows where else they plucked them out of clubs or whatnot, and carting them out there scantily clad, all to hell, to just have them paraded for the oogles and boogles of their, high end male audience. But
And
that's
and and let me hop in and point something out. Like
yeah,
people can be offended about what Booker said, but Tiffany Stratton is as over as she is for a reason. Julia Hart's as over as she is for a reason, and it's not because they're great wrestlers. Now, is this universally just for women? No. Some dudes get booked just for how they look too. That's not a shot or slander statement. Looks matter in wrestling. Now, do I think Booker should have, buried the lead, so to speak, and said specifically sex appeal? No. But I also think people aren't listening to the facts of the situation simply because they want to be offended. Booker was right in the fact that how you look matters in wrestling. It just does. And if you're offended by that, you're not paying attention.
yeah. I mean,
And there's
it's
nothing I can do about it.
if you deny the aesthetic part, I mean, obviously the skills play a huge part into it, but aesthetically as well. Like Hulk Hogan, got was a fixture for so long because of how he looked.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these people are gonna be coming out wrestling in little to nothing, the trunks, boots, knee pads, and elbow pads, and that's pretty much it. You have to look uh appealing as somebody that can be dominant in a sport that requires you to, exert a lot of physical force. So, anybody that denying that is just really trying to, stand on something that's already crumbling. But yeah, I think that just appeal thing is just it's subjective to the audience, particularly with how things have evolved so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, him working in the company, like we know how important it is to the women. So many of those women do not look like how they looked when they first came in. Like Natty went from um girl next door at the barn to
A cat dominatrix.
it, pretty much,
Look
pretty
at Jordan
much.
Grace.
You know, exactly. Look at Jordan Grace, and we've gone on in nauseum about Charlotte. So it's like we know we could see it certainly from the front, if you know what I'm saying. We get exactly how it comes with a lot of these women who have to keep up appearances and looks and come out there for maybe a 1 minute to 2 minute segment at most with hours worth of makeup on, and it's a lot. But like you said, there's good merits and to what he said. But yeah, I just think it's so highly subjective because people, you know, um, they'll get Tiffany Stratton and she might have a room of 50 dudes, and then here come Rhea Ripley and she got 250 dudes because just that look alone draws a completely different crowd.
It's pro wrestling, folks. Looks matter. It's just the sad truth of the situation. So with that said, let's wrap it up there. I have food waiting for me at some point, somewhere in time. You can find us on the website, realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCRP. Marcus, you can be found on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's the kid.
You can also find him on his other podcast that talks about wrestling, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. Look them up on Twitter. It's True Penny Show on Twitter for more wrestling coverage. They do a lot more international stuff than we do, so it'll give you a nice set of different regional takes, if you will. You can also find me on Twitter, Chad Nerdcorp, CHEDNERDCORP. Be sure to check out the Twitters. I don't know which one I'm going to post on, probably the Nerdcorp one. But I'm going to upload a few more photos from Impact, at least the ones I think are more fancy. And also, you can check me out on the Instagram as well at Chad's Photo Hut, CHDSPHOTOHUT. That's CHADSPHOTOHUT. I will be posting them there as well with some edits to maybe really hype up the uniqueness and selections, if you will. So that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. For Marcus Green, I'm Chad Porter. Thanks for hitting in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.